Shane Perry. I'm the core contracting officer representative for the agency-wide SharePoint contractors at CMS. Been doing that for 2.5 years now.
Yeah, my name is Nathan Dull. I'm the agency project manager on the federal side for SharePoint.
So when we first put in SharePoint at CMS, it was for the Affordable Care Act. It was used for an ECM solution to help support all the documentation that was coming out of that. And as a project tracker, we had roughly about 500 to 1,000 users. There was 1 federal staff member, about 9 contractors. And you can see, not very much data. Everything was pretty much done in one site collection. So.
This is our timeline from when we started in fall of 11. As Shane said, ACCA is definitely what kicked it off. And definitely through the years, it's just been slowly, gradually increasing in popularity. I think one of the major milestones during these few years here is the upgrade migration from SharePoint 2010 to SharePoint 2013. And everything that we're going to talk about is all on-prem. So that's where we kind of started there. After that, we helped the agency develop the CMS TTC SharePoint training, so updating that content for users to experience SharePoint in a little bit different way, as well as kind of getting that momentum with SharePoint within the agency. Summer of 16, that's when Shane and I actually joined staff together, dedicated just for SharePoint, which is really, really awesome to work with Shane. That's exactly the same time that we created also the SharePoint Ambassadors Group. We'll talk about that a little bit more too. And then one of the big things that happened fall of 16 is we got an SCA ATO. So what that does is allows us to put PII, PHI onto SharePoint, so it's personal health information, personal identifiable information onto SharePoint. So then CMS, of course, is a health organization.
So where are we at now? So you can see we've grown quite a bit. Actually, some of the numbers are a little bit off. We have over 5,000 FTE now, over 5,000 contractors have access to our farm. We have 2 federal staff now, and I think we're up to 20 contractors now.
Yeah.
I think it's 20 as of a couple days ago. And we're at 2.2 terabytes, over 50 site collections, and 13 servers. So you can see in the 2 years, we've kind of exploded.
Help desk growth, when we started in 2016, we're at around 191 tickets. Just in 1 month, and just in the past year we've grown to around 250 tickets. Here's some detailed information that we have. So, that's about a 30% increase, and this is actually information so we can kind of gauge where SharePoint is kind of moving, so we can start gearing ourselves for the future. So we're estimating that within 4 years, there's going to be a 60% growth, so there's going to be about 400 tickets a month. So that's definitely going to change, us as well as our contractors and where the agency is going with SharePoint. SharePoint has definitely become like a huge asset within the agency.
So projects, when we first came on board, project growth was at a still, and now it's kind of gotten to the point where I don't know if we want any more projects. So when we first started off, we would average 5 projects a month, and now we get about 15 projects every month. Anywhere from 65 to 75 active projects going on in our agency at one time that are related to SharePoint. It's funny, just thinking about it, part of our presentation is how we got to that growth. And a lot of the stuff that we used to do, we stopped doing because we're just too busy to do it. When me and Nathan first joined, we kind of sat down and said, how are we going to do this? How are we going to make this work? So we kind of came up with this idea where we were going to have a strategy, and it involved these 4 aspects. We thought that these 4 aspects were what were key to making SharePoint a success at our agency. So we're just going to go through and talk about them. And the first one we're going to talk about is team. So obviously me and Nathan were a part of the team, but we needed to have a good contractor on our side too, and that's where DocPoint and TTC came into play. And we needed them to be a part of our team. And then adding Nintex and AvePoint, they became a part of our team. And each time we added someone to our team, we needed it to be someone that worked well with us and that saw our vision.
The other thing that Shane and I were talking about was adoption. So how do you adopt SharePoint within the agency? The first thing that we did was, like I talked about, was the Power User Group. The Power User Group, Shane and I created that because what we were noticing is each component, there's 32 components within CMS. Each component was doing things just a little bit different. So what we needed to do is create some sort of consistency within the agency, and also training and what is it, like branding, and also like how people are doing things, so everyone can, best practices type thing. So we created the Power User Group. There's two areas of the Power User Group. The first top one actually is just the site where people can go to get information, and the bottom one is actually the sandbox. So people who don't have full permissions are allowed to go there, play around, break the site, refix it, type thing. So it allows people to kind of play without, harming any of sensitive information or things like that. So definitely just trying to create consistency and sharing information.
Marketing, that was the next big step for us. How do we get out there and get the word out? The Power User Group was great for people who wanted to use it. They just wanted to learn more. Now we needed to reach the people that had no idea about it and wanted to stay on share drives, because share drives are the greatest thing. So what did? We created what we called the CMS ambassadors. And essentially all we were we just put a catchy name on me and Nate, and we would walk around to components. We'd send out broadcast emails. We'd offer ourselves up for lunch and learns, and we did a candid presentation on how SharePoint can help you. So we came up with this PowerPoint that talked about all the features of SharePoint and how it can bring you into the digital age, how we can move documents quicker, how you can use version control, how we can build workflows for you, how we can get workflow approvals quicker, how we can pretty much do all the lovely things that we all love about SharePoint. And we would go around and we'd talk to components and say, hey, if you want to talk to us about something in particular, reach out to us. And we'd offer ourselves up for 2-hour chunks where people could come and just talk to us and learn more and more, ask us if there was a way they could help them with their system.
Yeah, I think education is definitely the big thing out of this one. It's just trying to educate. It's hard educating 10,000 people within the agency.
And then the last step to our pillars was we had to create products that spoke to the components. That's the different organizations. So we came up with these initial challenges that they have at CMS.
Yeah, so definitely document repository management. That's one of them. Another one is document approval. So this definitely falls in the line of workflow. Tracking statuses, projects, contracts, tasks. Also workflow automation, project management, contracts, business. And then also kind of converting something from Excel into some sort of a process, whether that be used within a list or something. The first one that we kind of developed was kind of creating a more enhanced area for document repository and management. Thanks. So what we did here was we tried to create a very simple, clean way for documents to be stored, as well as a really nice graphical interface for people to go to and for people to interact with SharePoint. We have a graphic designer on staff, so she helped us kind of like look how the user is actually interacting with SharePoint and trying to develop something so people can go there and easily access their information. We use metadata, of course, as the best practice within SharePoint, so it's trying to let people know about that feature, as well as how that can be enhanced within SharePoint. The other nice thing is, on a SharePoint site, you can track all your materials on the SharePoint site and everything. And I think that's definitely one thing that team members need to know, that you can do a lot more within SharePoint than just store documents.
The next thing we want to show you is workflows. So like most agencies, there's simple workflows that you have to do. Get approval from your first line manager, second line manager, and then you have your approval document. So we accomplished that, and we tried to formalize the process, and we tried to break it down so that everybody wants to come to you with their total solution. So what we try to do is we have people sit down at the table with us, and we ask them what their issues are, and we try to build something that's small that we can build onto. We never try to build something that is so large they're not going to use it. So what we do is we build these workflow templates using Nintex. If you want to go to the next slide. And then we can reuse these from component to component. So instead of us building a new correspondence workflow, because we do a lot of correspondence at CMS where we'll get providers that want information that we have on beneficiaries. So CapMS Lite, this was the second SharePoint boom we had. CapMS Lite is something that we created, and it's really just a branding tag for a SharePoint list that is connected to another list, and then we put a nice little Nintex form on top and put some reporting on the back end. So it's a project tracker similar to what people are used to seeing in Project Tracker, but we put a name on it so that we could go around and tell people about CapMS Lite. And every time we show CapMS Lite in a demo, we get 10 projects easily. The next day we get 10 help desk tickets saying, hey, we need a CapMS Lite solution, we need a CapMS Lite solution.
This is probably one of the top selling items, if you want to call that, at CMS. So what this does is everyone wants to know what their employees are doing at CMS. So this is the way that we developed it. So what it does is it has a simple interface form using Nintex, so people enter in statuses for their employees on what they're doing and everything. And then we actually roll this up into a few different reports. We have an executive summary report that's mainly just for executives. They don't need to drill into things into more detail. We also have a project summary report, so that one actually does drill down a little bit deeper, as well as just a project summary report. So, it's similar to, I don't know if you guys have used Microsoft Project, but it's definitely a light version of that. So you're not, getting some of the nitty-gritty stuff that's within that, but it's a very simple interface for users.
The next one we're going to show you, this is actually for Seema Verma, our office administrator, our administrator at CMS. So you wanted a central place where all of the components could come to track the statuses of her priority projects. So same concept kind of as the last one. We created a nice little interface that you could go to that was simple, 3 tiles. You create a project, you update a milestone on that project, and then it spits out a report for you that you can use. So same concept. We have a nice little Nintex form that pretties it because people love pretty. They go in, they input their statuses, and then once they're done doing that, they can run a report. And Seema actually uses this at her weekly issues meetings with the components. She has a subscription to the report, so the report is sent to her every Thursday. She prints it out, and then she takes that with her to her issues meetings with the components, and she actually uses that to track exactly what's going on as far as that. And it's the same framework as the last one: input, update, and then reports. The next solution is a procurement tracker. So everybody in the business does procurements, and we have a lot of trouble at CMS because our procurement shops are usually different than the budget shops, and the budget shops are usually different than the accounting shops, and they all want the information a different way. So we had to come up with a solution that we could get the budget people to input the information for procurements that would be in the format that also is needed for our Office of Financial Management. So what we did was, just like all the other CapMS-like solutions, we created a place for them to create a project. In this case, that project's a contract. We have put in a place for them to update that contract with certain information, and then it spits out a report again. And this one has been really valuable from a time saver, because this used to be an Excel-based process that you'd have to go through in the Office of Financial Management. Would send it out to us, and it'd have 1,000 line items, and you'd have to find just your items in the Excel spreadsheet, type in your information, and then inevitably you would do something wrong because it's an Excel spreadsheet and you're seeing 1,000 lines. So what we did was we automated it, kicks out reports for us now, and even more important, now the components can actually see just the items that are important to them, because my component could care less than what the next component's really doing as far as it comes to money. So this one's been really valuable from a time saver for us.
Yeah, like Shane said, this is using Nintex forms, as well as actually in the back end it's using Nintex workflow too. I think it does some of the calculations or something like that. So there's a lot of Nintex involved in this one, as well as actually the last one that we showed too.
So this is Patrick's baby. Patrick worked hard on this one for a long time. We had a request from our Agile team to create electronic Kanban boards. Our agency's really going towards telework, and what they would normally do is take out the sticky notes and post them on a wall of the different swim lanes. And we always had a joke that I just wanted to get a fan and go by to somebody's desk and just blow their sticky notes out because it was hilarious. They would literally sit in the hallway with a cell phone on the ground for a conference call as they're moving sticky notes across the lawn. So we had a request to develop a Kanban board, an electronic Kanban board inside SharePoint. And using Nintex forms, Nintex workflows, and a lot of Patrick's time, we created this electronic Kanban board that's actually really a really cool product. What you can't see in the screen is that it's highly configurable. In the top right-hand corner, you can actually add swim lanes, add projects, however you want, and you can do it any way you want. There's also an archive option, so once a task is done, it doesn't live on the board, you can archive it, so now you can go back and look at all your completed tasks. It's completely color-coded, and probably something that gave Patrick nightmares. We actually added drag and drop functionality to this. For whatever reason, when we first deployed it, that we're like, we need drag and drop. Have no idea why, but we have drag and drop, so you can drag an item from one swim lane to the next, and it will fade out of the one swim lane and fade into the next one. So this one, this is pretty cool.
This is really cool.
This is really cool. And you get all the SharePoint functionality on the back end, the version control. Like I said, we have an archive solution on it. If we wanted to put a report on this, so your manager wanted to see how often tasks are being done, we collect all that information. So.
And I think we should note that our SharePoint environment, we can't really go online and download stuff, because I do know that they do make these boards online, so we couldn't do that, so that's why we had Patrick develop it and everything like that. But I think ours looks probably better than we can buy, so.
And it's highly customizable, which is the best part. You can configure it any way you want. With the click of a button.
Yeah. So where is CMS going in the future here? I think some of the things that we want to highlight is one thing that we're seeing within our agency is SharePoint is definitely being used a lot. So one thing that we developed was actually a pop-up little thing that pops up and it says welcome to SharePoint type thing. So we're allowed to do announcements on there now. We're also going to be moving our intranet from like Percussion, that's a content management solution, onto our system now. So we're going to have our own intranet now within SharePoint. So that'll be integrated with the pop-ups. So now people have a one-stop shop to see what the agency's, what's happening on within the agency. We're also, we've upgraded our help desk system to have new categories as well as a new workflow that's within there to kind of help our needs within the agency. We've also purchased AvePoint, like Shane had kind of talked about.
That's really going to help us because we're starting to dive into AvePoint, and we're going to use it for site creation. So we're going to be able to automate the site creation process opposed to us having to actually manually go in and apply our master page template. We're going to be able to use it.
We're starting that initial talk and everything, just try to get us there and everything. So.
Yeah. So in review, basically what we try to do is you try to create a framework that we could deploy rapid solutions easily that met customers' needs. We created friendly coding that was low code, that was allow us to replicate things and at the same time create that mutually beneficial relationship where everybody's winning.
I think training is definitely one of the huge things that we see within the agency, and I think with everyone. If you want something to really become alive, training is so important within the agency. And just having people understand what you're doing, that's definitely a huge key feature with that. And also purchasing third-party tools. Obviously, you can do a lot of what we purchase, but you can actually save time and low code. It's cheaper actually buying some of the third-party tools, so don't be afraid of that. And then, what was the last one?
And we talked about that relationship. I mean, ultimately, we've ended up saving the agency a pretty decent amount of money. We've estimated in 2 years around $3 million just because of the adoption of SharePoint. And it's not always in getting rid of legacy systems. A lot of it's actually been in FTE and process improvement. So where we've seen is we've made people's work days easier, so we've saved money. That person now can become more efficient. So,
and we're always trying to take over new business too. So that's one of the big things, especially from our ambassador group, or if we hear something really interesting, you know, there's tons of different tools out there that obviously can do some of the things that we, you know, but what we want to do is definitely like put on SharePoint, and then that'll also increase user base as well as keeping SharePoint around a little bit longer.